What's going on, guys? Back with another video. So today we got some clips from Melanie Jolie, who is a Liberal cabinet minister, and the first one here was reposted by Kat Hemsley from Rebel News. Melanie Jolie says a golden age is starting between Canada and the European Union. That's the first clip. It's just a few seconds long. It's not very long, but I got another one too, so we'll get into that. But before we do, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help grow the channel. I really appreciate you guys for doing that for me. So let's get into this and then we'll talk about it.
I won't take decisions for our CEOs. My job is to open them paths to make sure that that diversification is easier. And that's why we need, as leaders, to make sure that we're creating these partnerships at the institution level, and then our businesses can follow suit, and then they can make sure that they do business with basically the European Union and the European countries. And I think that there's a lot of interest in the EU for Canada, and I think there's lots of interest right now in Canada for the EU. I think we're in really, the golden age that is starting between the EU and Canada.
Golden age? Yeah, it sounds a lot like when Trudeau first came in office and he said, "Sunny ways, my friends, sunny ways." How'd that work out? So we're going to have trade deals with the European Union only now? We're just going to ditch the United States? I'm not an economic major or anything, but there's a gigantic ocean separating Europe and Canada. So if we're going to trade with them and get products for them and send them products, that's going to raise the price, isn't it? Not to mention we have to ship these things even further using ships to go across the ocean. That's going to increase the amount of carbon that we release into the atmosphere, isn't it? So, sounds like it's going to make things more expensive and be worse for the climate. What happened, Mr. Climate Zealot Mark Carney? Melanie Jolie, the planet's going to burn? Who was that? Mark Garretson, was that? I can't remember which MP said that, but the planet's going to burn. Like, it's so ridiculous. Then we have a little bit of a longer clip here. And I know it's hard listening to these liberals talk, but at least it's not Chrystia Freeland. I mean, say what you want about Melanie Jolie, she's a little bit easier on the eyes than Chrystia Freeland, and she doesn't have that squeaky Mr. Speaker voice, so at least it's better. So in this video, it's Melanie Jolie response to President Trump's announcement that 35% tariffs will be imposed on Canadian goods on August 1st. While the U.S. is becoming weaker, we will be becoming stronger, and we will diversify and turn ourselves towards Europe. I tried to read that with a straight face, but I just couldn't quite make it. So let's have a look at this one.
We take good note of the comments made by the president, and of course we'll let the prime minister continue his negotiations, and will not negotiate in public. These has been the answers that I've been giving to every single questions since the beginning of the negotiations. What I wanted to emphasize today is, as minister in charge of industries and of the economy, is we are not alone in this world. We need to be closer to our allies. And that is why today is so important. It's been only 15 days that the Prime Minister signed an agreement with the EU to make sure that not only, of course, that we have free trade agreement, but that we are very closely aligned on defense and on all our industrial policies. And we're trying to make sure that ultimately, while the US is becoming weaker, we will become stronger, and we will diversify and turn ourselves towards Europe.
We saw the Prime Minister push the deadline for these negotiations to August 1st. I'm wondering why that strategy, and why not, for instance, more counter tariffs in this case?
So, as I mentioned, we'll make sure that the negotiations continues. Canada is the only country on earth, along with China, that has imposed so many counter tariffs. So we have had already.
Isn't that because most other countries made a deal with Trump already? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought they did. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Melanie Jolie might be a little bit clueless here.
A very strong response, and we want to make sure that while we are putting pressure on the American administration, that at the same time we're creating, well, first we're protecting jobs while creating jobs. And we're
creating jobs. Where are they? I'll be honest with you, I hate my job. I've been looking, seeing if I can apply for other jobs, and I get to apply sometimes, but I barely ever even hear back. Because if they're opening 5 positions, they're looking at 100 resumes. Where's all these jobs? Go on Indeed, go on Monster, go on, or I don't even think Monster, I think it's Glassdoor now. There's not that many job openings, guys. So where are all these jobs they're creating? Or is this another promise? Like, oh, don't worry, they're going to be coming in the future. Yeah, right.
We're making sure that we're doing this economic diplomacy, which usually would not necessarily be the case in a normal world, but we're not in normal times. And economic diplomacy is more important than ever, and that's why we need to make sure that while the U.S. is closing its market and really taking its own path regarding protectionism, that we, as a stable and democratic country, continue to have open markets, including with the EU. And that's my job.
Well, I mean, if we're going to start just trading with the United States, with the European Union, which we all know Mark Carney wants us to be part of that somehow, which is ridiculous. We're not a European country. And yes, I've even heard people from Europe come over to Canada and say, okay, out of all the countries that are not in the European Union, Canada is more similar. But we're still not a European country. It's still going to cost way too much to trade everything with them. It's going to be way cheaper to trade with the United States. That's why we've done it, and that's why we need a trade deal. Okay, so they were supposed to have a trade deal done by the 21st. Now, of course, Mark Carney said, oh, it's going to be the 29th, delaying it. So now Trump says, well, okay, if it gets delayed again, here's more tariffs on you. And what's horrific about this is that the government of Canada wants this because it gives them a scapegoat. They don't have to take any accountability. Oh, guys, it's not our fault. It's Trump. Trump. That's all they're going to do. They want this. This helped them win them the election. Why would they want this to go away? And again, if they actually cared about us and cared about our economy, cared about our jobs, they would. But their jobs are secure. They've all got their pensions, most of them. And even if they don't, what are they making? $200,000-300,000 a year? Well, going on extended vacations, they still make that money. They work 3 weeks. Now they're on vacation for 12. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. So, like, what incentive does Mark Carney and the Liberal Party have for this whole Trump tariff thing going away? They don't. They want it to continue. It speeds along the process of destroying this country, which is what they want, while also saying, well, hey, it's not our fault, guys, it's all Trump. And there's a lot of Canadians who are absolute morons who would believe that, not ever holding the Liberal government accountable, which they didn't. They held Justin Trudeau accountable after 10 years, finally. But they thought it was a Trudeau problem, not a Liberal Party problem. It's a party problem. It's a globalist problem. It's a WEF problem. And when you have a weak country with no jobs and a bunch of unemployments and mass immigration, no one can buy a house, people are getting sick, they can't get the help they need, you have a very weak nation that's going to have to rely on its government. And that's what they want. The Conservatives, though, what do they want? They want self-reliance. They want a strong economy so you can rely on yourself and your family and protect each other instead of having the government be daddy for you all the time. But boomers who don't really care about immigration or the job market because they're retired and live in safe communities and they have their house paid for. That house they bought in 1980 for $100,000 is worth over $1 million or $2 million right now. So it's good for them what's happening. They don't care about the younger generations. And again, not all boomers. There's a lot of you in the comments who are subscribed to me who are boomers. I know you guys care about it because you voted for the right party. But there's also young people who still vote for the Liberal. Like it's like talk about shooting yourself in the foot. It's absolutely insane. But they keep doing it. Now, luckily, younger people now are starting, especially young men, are starting to go over to the right. But they're not voting as much. So they're still not going to get their way unless they wake up and get involved and start voting. Boomers vote way more often than young men and women. And women vote more often than men. So if you're an older woman who's most likely, statistically speaking, going to be liberal versus a younger man who's statistically going to be conservative, but you're only showing up at like 30%, they're showing up at like 70, 80%. You're going to lose. So you got to get out there and vote. It's not like it used to be. It's not like the conservatives and the liberals are basically the same. Who cares? This isn't Aaron O'Toole versus Justin Trudeau. This is Pierre Poilievre versus Mark Carney. This is freedom and being Canadian. And when I mean Canadian, like I mean being a patriotic Canadian and having your choice and having a better housing market, having more jobs, capping immigration, keeping criminals in jail. That's what the Conservatives want. The Liberals don't want that. And there's lots of evidence to show it. I don't care what they say. I'm looking at what they do. And what have they done? Let criminals out of jail, release hard drugs onto the streets, let in millions and millions of immigrants every year. I'm not saying don't allow any of them to come in, but they're allowing too many. The math doesn't add up. This isn't a race issue. This isn't a culture issue. This is a math problem. And the Liberals aren't very good at math. Or really history or anything else for that matter. But let me know what you guys think. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks again so much for watching. I'll be back shortly with a new one.